running, and he's using rocks to destroy windows. And then in later Romero pictures, not like, up until Land of the Dead, but Dawn of the Dead, they train in Day of the Dead, but for the most part, they're thoughtless. They don't run. They don't do that. So it was kind of fun to watch Night of the Living Dead and watch this thing run, watch it use rocks. And in this one, the water sucks itself back up into the toilet.
Yeah. In that leak of the valve, that was, just the water getting to him though. That was a really cool part of that scene for me, because you're just waiting for him to slip. It's really tense. He goes for his razor. He goes for the nose hair trimmer. Yeah. Man, I thought he was going to stab that into his brain.
I was waiting for him to pull out like a hand grenade.
Right.
And people are complaining about the blue water, but you see it. It's fine. It's death water. It's all good. It's Gatorade. It's Deaderade. Did you have any problems with the blue water?
Yeah,
they could have used one of those blue flush things.
I almost just thought it was because of the color of the tile under it.
Hey.
But yeah, it did look more opaque than you would expect. I agree. I guess that just draws extra attention to it, but everyone knew what was going on.
Now, why did Death have to pull the water back? Its goal was to kill the guy. So, did it want the others to know? Was he playing with them? Oh, he wouldn't have committed suicide, right? So, if they said it was an accident, they wouldn't have been suspicious. So by Death making it seem like a suicide as opposed to an accident, it actually shot itself in the foot, because then those people started trying to avoid it.
So that's interesting you said. I never thought about this specifically retracting the water, because when I saw that, my reaction to it was less wondering why Death would do it and more thinking, this shows even more the control that Death has over, some aspects of the world, and that makes it all the more menacing. But what you're saying makes sense, though. Like, why not just let it look like he slipped and it was an accident?
Because when people find Sean William Scott, they're just going to be like, oh, that dude got decapitated by something from a train going by, right?
Right.
And, that lady, did Amanda Detmer get hit did Death plan on her getting hit by the bus so it knew how the conversation would play out and how she would walk away? Or did Death get lucky on that one?
I don't think Death got lucky. Because the other thing is that you'll notice that like almost no cars went by before that happened. So when she walked out in the street, she was in plain sight from a great distance by that bus.
Yeah.
I mean, we're overthinking something that really, I'm sure, isn't meant to be thought about in the movie. But I remember as she was walking out in the street, I'm like, oh shit, cars. That's right. The bus is coming. And I was like, where are the cars? Bam. And then she got hit. And so, and they even said that in the commentary, that almost all the time in these neighborhoods, when they were there, they never wanted other cars to be in the shot, even by accident, because they would have Canadian tags and it wasn't supposed to take place in Canada. So you never see other cars on the street with them.
That's funny. And they cost money too. You don't want to deal with that.
But I mean, just cars passing by, that have nothing to do with the shoot. And so, but yeah, so that bus was going fast. So it was coming from at least a couple blocks away, and it saw her from a long, I imagine it had to. Well, then again, maybe kids were screaming in the back of the bus. I suppose that's a possibility,
right? Do you think
right?
Death spilled that guy's coffee who's driving the bus, the person's coffee?
He could have spilled his coffee. He could have just gotten a text or something. I don't know. But I'm not trying to criticize this scene negatively. We're just having fun dissecting it a bit, but I do love that kill. And this is it's the least elaborate kill to such a point that you posited did Death get lucky?
No, I think it's my second favorite kill. I'm not hating on it. I just kind of think that how could Death have planned on that, and was Death pleasantly surprised when it happened?
So I think that Death has a huge amount of control here. And one other thing is that the first several times I watched this movie, it never really clicked, but they were going to Paris on spring break.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it was nearly fall, as Clear points out to Devon Sawa, to Alex. And he says, well, it's only late June. Remember when the leaves were falling? And she said something was in transition. So it was late June before anyone died. So months had passed and Death sat idly by. Was Death planning? Was Death looking at the numbers of the matrix of the future to see all the things that were going to happen? Why would Death wait several months and then all of a sudden kill all these people in a matter of days?
Was Death killing other people and just got behind?
Well, I don't know, but again, there's a big time gap.
I know where Death was.
Uh-oh.
No, I don't know where Death was. Never mind.
No?
No.
Okay.
I almost had it.
But so Death had a lot of time to prepare or to set aside some personal leave or something. If Death is an entity, I imagine that there are other greater entities, and that Death might be, God might be punching his time card, and he had to be like, yo, God, I've got some things that I need to sort out that were part of, and maybe he needed to wait until that slow time of year. Beats me. But again, he waited a long time and then got a bunch of people in a short period of time, which is that's an interesting execution. They waited so long.
You just blew my mind, John. Talk about this. Why recover? We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more Final Destination. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I'm better now, John.
You better? You got over it?
I'm fine. I'm feeling good. Feeling pretty good. Now,
you had a whole summer off when we took that break.
Yes, 3 months later. You really, it's like when I asked you, who'd you get your photo op taken with? I did the same thing, but for 3 months.
Right.
Now, what I also love is, his plane leaves at 9:25. His birthday is September 25th, and he's an I-25, which is 9:25. That's kind of fun, right?
Right, yeah, it's just like all the stuff they did with 180.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a good little bit. So, in the beginning of this movie, I think it did a good job establishing the dread. I mean, when you're a paranoid person, some people said he went a little overboard. Like, why would you be paranoid of that? But when you're paranoid already, and you're starting to see these weird signs, everything could be paranoia fuel. Does that make sense?
So, yeah, but I want to speak to the defense of the character. If anyone out there is saying that the Alex character was a little overamped and a little overreactive and being a little less credibly rational, or however you want to say it, it's like he was living in a world where he believed that death was an entity that had a plan that was coming for him and his friends.
Yep.
Like that's big. That will blow your mind. That makes me that is a step in the direction of like the Lovecraftian indescribable horrors that from like actually the Nick Cage movie that's being made or is already made, The Color of Space, deals with that. When you're touched by these otherworldly things, like you just go mad.
Yeah.
And like, I think that this is not quite that, because these are all concepts that he's familiar with, but they're all things that would have been mythical, fantasy, horror movie things that just became real. I feel like this is like if, when you believe Freddy Krueger is real and he's coming for you and your friends if you sleep. I think that, yeah, you're going to start wigging out.
I do like how
no
sweaty he was. Sweaty he was. Remember the premonition, how sweaty he was?
Oh, God, that poor kid. Yeah. Waking up from a nap sweating? You know, fever?
I do have to say, when he goes and sits next to Todd, those seats, it's a set. They built a plane on a big gimbal in a warehouse. And those seats are amazing, John. You and I would be comfortable in those seats that they sat in. And that's Coach.
I am jealous every time I see a plane scene in a movie, because you also notice that, like, when a stewardess is walking down the aisles, there is like a clear 1 or 2 feet of space on either side of her hips.
Yep.
Like there's so much space on it. It's like, it's not fair, because somewhere there's a farmer in Iowa who's never been on a plane, and he's seen like 18 movies with plane scenes, and he's my size. And then he gets on that plane. He's like, what the hell?
Yeah, like the cart's hitting him in the elbow, the leg. He doesn't fit in the bathroom.
Dude, I feel beat up after I get off of a flight. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no, I worked some shows with you after you got off flights. You're like, man, I need a nap.
It's like it takes me 2 days into a show before my shoulder feels normal again.
So, anything else you want to? I mean, there's so much more to talk about that we haven't covered yet. But what are some other things you want to get into here?
I mean, I really want to dig deep into the death scenes, but we have a lot of listener questions that I think are going to steer us in that direction.
Awesome. Let's hear it.
All right. So first question is Brett from New Jersey. Brett asks, were all the death scenes just made up elaborate scenes, or were some of them taken from actual accidents?
Oh.
So now we both listened to the commentary with the writer, director, and I guess the main producer was that.
Yeah.
But I heard not one single mention to a real death regarding the death scenes of death coming for them. There was one death, the story that Clear tells on the beach, that really happened, but that had nothing to do with death coming for this group of teenagers. And other than that, like, I imagine some of these might have been inspired by something that someone heard about, or like a friend of a friend, or you read about a freak accident once. But I don't even know how to search for this to verify it, but I didn't stumble across anything.
I do know that Flight 180 was based on Transworld Flight 800, which also crashed right after takeoff, and it was leaving JFK for Paris, and both were carrying a group of students going to Paris on a class trip.
You bastard. I did not stumble across anything like that. That's awesome. I mean, it's not awesome for the poor people who are on that plane.
No,
obviously.
no. Mark.
We're not hey-ohing that.
Yeah, just high-fiving. You and I just cheered for 5 minutes. Wait, that was terrible. We should not have done that.
Okay, wait. So, this may or may not pertain to this movie, but John Weidler from the Last Knock podcast, and recently also a guest of this podcast, asks, what is your favorite, least elaborate death scene in a horror movie? And do you want to start?
Yeah, any horror movie. So
he just said in a horror movie, yeah.
All right, so Leatherface's when he just bonks the guy in the head, then drags him back in and slams the door.
That was fine.
Yep, that's it. I mean, I don't think how it's blunt force. It's, when I saw when I was 18, like you said, it's like when people saw Psycho and they swore that they saw red going down the drain with the blood. But I watched, so I actually bought this movie the other day. It was like $5 on Vudu with like a 40th anniversary with all the goods on it, all the docs and everything. And that scene paralyzed me when I was younger. It just, it was so non-flashy. It was so fast. And then when he slammed the door, it was just so primal. That one gets me big.
I mean, I feel like if you, from the moment Leatherface came on screen for the first time, if you said one Mississippi, you would not have finished that before the dude was struck in the head.
He just
like
gets
it was
leveled.
so abrupt.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. Like, because we've watched a lot of horror movies, but for some reason, whenever that was the first thing that came to my mind, whenever he said that, I just, maybe it's not creative, but it's such a primal kill. It's just, and I also like in Green Room how some of the deaths in Green Room are just so fast. And normally you're used to maybe some heroics or a dragged out fight scene, but a couple of the deaths are just so grisly, and they feel real, and they feel just unfair, I guess. And there's nothing showy about them. So I think between Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Green Room, those two are mine. What do you have any others that you would add?
Well, what's funny is that so I have this once a year article series that's 10 images for 10 years in horror, and first I did 2000 to 2000, or it's 15 images. I'm sorry. I did 2000 to 2014, then 2001 to 2015. And I honestly thought, and this was years ago that I wrote the first one, I honestly thought that I had Terry's Death with the Bus as my 2000 pick. Turns out I didn't. But I thought that was my pick for 2000. And when he asked that, and I went to my own article, it's like, oh shit, I didn't do that. But so I mean that, like, I just assumed that I had picked that as one of my favorite impactful moments of 2000. So for me, that's one of them. And yeah, again, Texas Chainsaw, that sticks real hard for me too.
That was the first thing. It was weird. You know me, man. Over the course of the last 4 years, how much work I put into listener questions or not. Like I put a lot of work into. I used to put a lot of work into getting them wrong. This one, I gotta say Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's the ultimate kill for me. Ultimate kill. So,
Okay.
that was your number one.